What do we got? PFT PM Posse. How long until the Texans replace the Cowboys as Texas's #1 NFL franchise? Seems to be fairly close already. I remember there was a time where there was some heat between the Texans and the Cowboys, and the Cowboys kind of looked down on the Texans. They kind of looked down on everybody. And it's amazing that Cowboys have maintained their lofty perch nationwide when they haven't been to a conference championship game since 1995. And I think that it turns if the Texans get to a conference championship game before the Cowboys. I think that's when it turns. And maybe that happens this year. PFT PM Posse, did the 2 bye weeks in 1993 fail because each bye was actually 2 weeks long for the team? Meaning they were playing Sundays to Sunday. There was no Thursday. There was no other windows. It was just you're off, and you're off for 14 days. So many games are now played on non-Sundays now. Does schedule dilution become a non-factor? And just by way of refresher, the networks hated the 2 bye week season of 1993 because it diluted the Sundays. There were 28 teams at the time. There are now 32. But the Sunday schedule was already being diluted by the periodic Monday night doubleheader or 2 games being played at the same time, the Thursday night games. We already had Sunday night in 1993. So it's going to be more delicate to say 2 bye weeks, but I think the networks go along with it because of the potency of standalone NFL games. More windows, more people watching. So I just think with 4 more teams and just the basic fact that nothing can compare to the NFL by way of gathering a massive audience to watch a game at any given time, the networks would probably get over the idea of having weeks arguably diluted because they're going to come out of it with 20 regular season weeks instead of 18. Here's a good question from King36. Do you think any players will wear the concussion shell over their helmets for regular season games? Remember last year when the NFL was touting the benefits in the preseason of that big clunky, looks like sound insulation or inside out egg cartons that they wear over their helmets? How much safer the players are? Well, okay, can they wear it during games? Well, no. Now, the NFL, and this kind of quietly came out during the offseason, now the players are allowed to wear it if they want to. We'll see. Look, the NFL is concerned, and I think a lot of fans, it's a very visual sport, played in a very visual medium. Look at all the helmets, all the uniforms. Look at how great the game looks on TV. It's one of the reasons why it's so popular. It looks great on TV. There will be fans who complain if there are players out there wearing this big, giant, great kazoo contraption, and I don't know how you can properly make it look like a helmet. What do you do? Do you just apply the decals over the undulated external padding? I don't know. But I just wonder at the end of the day if no player will do it, because players want to look good, and you don't look good in the estimation of most, if not all, players if you're wearing that thing when you're out there on the field. So it'll be interesting to see if it happens. Mr. Palmerson, what process does the league and the NFLPA have to go through to start an 18-game season? It's very simple. They just sit down and agree to it. It's bargaining. That's what happens when you have a league and a union. You bargain. The league wants 18 games. Okay, fine. What's in it for us? And they work to an agreement. And they can do it at any time. It doesn't matter when the CBA expires. They can do it at any time. They can reach any agreement they want. It can be good for one side. It can be bad for both sides. It can be good for both sides. It can be a win-win, as every agreement should be. When you're in a situation like this, where it's a symbiotic relationship, it's give and take, you never want one side to feel like it got screwed. You want everybody to feel like they've been treated fairly. Rob, if the Sunday ticket trial ends up costing the NFL $14 to $21 billion, is that enough for the league to look into replacing Roger Goodell as commissioner, or has he made enough of an impact during his tenure to weather the storm? The appeal process is going to carry Roger Goodell out to the conclusion of his current contract. And maybe by then, the owners won't want to offer him an extension if they know they're going to have to pay the $14 billion. But look, this wasn't his mess. This is what the owners wanted to do. Sunday Ticket was something that started in 1994. They've known for 30 years this thing has a potential antitrust component to it. And they made a shitload of money over the last 30 years. Yeah, they may have to give $14.1 billion of it back, but I don't think it really sticks to Goodell. And look, I can only imagine there has been some difficult conversation involving the commissioner, Jeff Pash, outside counsel, certain owners, as to how we got to the point where we potentially have to pay $14.1 billion. Now, for now, they're circling the wagons. And this is what happens. I lived this life. When you get a bad outcome as a corporate party, and you've got a big law firm that handled the case, and people are trying to figure out why, what happens is a consensus emerges that it's the judge's fault. It's the jury's fault. The plaintiffs were cheating. I mean, haven't we seen that play out in a non-legal setting in recent years? If you lose, it's not because of anything you did. Somebody else cheated. Somebody else was dumb. Somebody else was corrupt. It can never be, we violated the law. We didn't try a very good case. We had a chance to settle, but we poo-pooed it. We're not worried about this. We'll be fine. So I think for now, they're in full-blown, we can still win this. And I think they've gotten themselves convinced. It becomes an echo chamber. I've been in this place. And this is why it's so important for the lawyers to be willing to say to the executives, wait a minute. Hang on a second. You need to hear this. The problem is there are plenty of executives that surround themselves, and I'm not saying that that's the case here. There are plenty of executives who surround themselves with people who say what they want to hear. And my concern for the NFL to date and moving forward, there's too much of what someone wants to hear and not enough of this is how we end up getting screwed. And we can blame anyone else we want, but at the end of the day, the $14.1 billion plus interest plus attorney's fees is going to come out of our pockets. Gritty get litty. Do you think players have just accepted an 18-game season already? Do you think there will be a major fight over it with the union? I think that 18 games is happening. I think that the current union management, when D. Smith, the former executive director of the NFLPA, was asked about 18 games years ago, it was no effing way. Not a direct quote, but no way, not doing it. You've got Lloyd Howell entertaining it. And Jalen Reeves-Maben, the NFLPA president, when he was asked about it after it bubbled up with the Andrew Berry comments to us at the scouting combine, we'll discuss that at the appropriate time. Not no way. Players want to do it. Young players are willing to do it. They get paid more money to do it. So I think they'll work it out, especially if they can get larger rosters, second bye week, revamp the offseason program in some way to put less strain on the players. A lot of stuff that won't cost the owners a whole lot of money. That's the best thing you can do as the union. The NFL has a proposal that results in more money for everyone, and the players are asking for all sorts of stuff that doesn't cost the owners a lot of money. That's the way to get to an agreement, and I think they will. All right, let me see what else we have here. This is another 18-game season question from Colin Adams. You recently spoke about a second bye week. Why would either side be against that? That would allow for more primetime games, and the rest sounds like a win for everyone, including the fans. Again, the networks don't like it, and the NFL would have to be willing to either have Pro Bowl weekend happen on President's Day weekend and the Super Bowl a week later, or start the season Labor Day weekend. And they got away from Labor Day weekend because viewership is typically down then. People aren't home. They're at the beach. They're at the picnic. They're still on vacation. They're not sitting in front of the TV. What's changed now is we're all carrying our TV around everywhere we go. And I think the NFL's popularity is at the point where wherever you are, if that's the weekend that football starts, people will watch. And they could do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, sorry, college football, Sunday, Monday. A 5-day primetime football extravaganza to start the season. People would be all in for that, I believe. Jordan Davey, why not go for a 20-game season now and have 2 buys with the NFLPA asking for no franchise tags and 5th-year options? Do you think the NFL would listen to that? The NFL is never going to up the franchise tag. The NFL would love, I think, to do 20 games. They're never giving up the franchise tag. But maybe there's a deal to be done there. And I've said, let's go ahead and go to 20. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's not peel it off slowly. Let's just go to 20. Let's do it. You're going to get there anyway. Let's just go ahead and get to 20 games, max out the revenue, and we'll all know. There'll be no more issues about, well, hey, the record's good for now until they add another game. We got to put an asterisk on it. Let's just go to 20. That's where they're eventually going to be. Then we'll know all the records are what they are. But think about that. With a 20-game season, to get 1,000 rushing yards in a season, you have to average 50 a game. All right. Tyler Hergert, last question. Why isn't there a class action lawsuit for the people who didn't buy Sunday ticket because it was too expensive? There's no damages. What are your damages? I didn't buy something because it was too expensive. So what did I lose? How do you turn that into dollars and cents? I think that's the problem. If there was a class to be pursued with that argument, it would have been part of the case that just went to trial. And there would have been a separate measure of damages for residential customers who did not get Sunday ticket because they thought it was too expensive. I've said before, they are the uncompensated victims of this scheme to make it so expensive that only the most passionate fans who will gladly pay anything to watch their favorite team that doesn't play in the market where they live, those are the only plaintiffs. But the uncompensated victims are the ones who say, I'm just sorry, I can't afford it. I don't want a DirecTV dish, whatever reason, I'm just not doing it. I think those folks are out of luck as it relates to the legal system. But for those of us who happen to be covering the case and thinking about the case and talking about the case because people are interested in the case, even though most media outlets are ignoring it still to this day, yeah, people got screwed by this policy. Setting aside the antitrust violation, the $14.1 billion, people got screwed by this effort by the NFL to double dip, maximize the Sunday ticket revenue, maximize the CBS and Fox revenue by ensuring that the price for Sunday ticket was so high that only the most passionate fans would buy it. And those were the ones who got screwed the most. And those are the ones who may get a check at some point. And some of those folks are defending the NFL on social media. And I say to all those folks, are you going to tear up your check when it shows up, or are you going to cash it? And if you're going to do anything along the lines of taking the money, probably time to stop making the arguments supporting what the NFL did, because they took advantage of you. They took more of your money than they should have taken through an antitrust violation that allowed them to set this up. Because the argument is all 32 teams should have been competing with the various networks for the out-of-market packages, and we would have had a situation, and I got to wrap it up with this. But I was thinking about this earlier today. We would have had a situation where every game is on your cable or satellite provider at no extra charge. And I can't help but wonder, let's think about this alternate universe. CBS and Fox have the rights to the various markets. So in Pittsburgh, you're going to see a Steelers game on CBS or Fox. In Dallas, you're going to see the Cowboys game on CBS or Fox. In San Francisco, you're going to see the 49ers game. It's going to change by market, but CBS and Fox serve the local markets. And all the other games, the out-of-market games, ABC, NBC, ESPN, FS1, ESPN2, USA, NFL Network. If you would put every game on, let's say there's 9 games, and many weekends there are 9 games at 1 o'clock Eastern on a Sunday. You put them all on at the same time, and nobody has to pay anything extra. Do you think the ratings would go down or go up? Do you think the money would go down or go up? I think if they just made every game available, and really, you think about the popularity of the NFL right now. As I said earlier, nothing pulls together a live audience like professional football. So if you have from the hours of 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock Eastern on 18 Sundays in the fall, soon to be 20, maybe more. Everywhere you turn, any game you want is there on your cable, satellite, or YouTube TV or equivalent streaming package where you've got all these channels. You can watch your favorite team. You can watch whatever game you think is the most interesting game of the weekend in that window. You can turn to another game if that game ends up boring you. You can do whatever you want. Wouldn't that draw more people in? As I said yesterday, 35 million people wanted to watch out-of-market games, and Sunday Ticket serves 2 to 3 million. Another NFL study showed the number was up to 75 million. I think the audiences would be through the roof if every game was on TV. The money would go up and the audiences would go up. And I don't know why the NFL won't do that. I don't know if they're just being careful. And once that cat's out of the bag, there's no putting it back in. Could you imagine? They do that for a year and they're like, well, we're going back to Sunday Ticket where you got to pay $400 for it. That wouldn't fly. But I'd like to think that's one way out of this maze for the NFL that can end up benefiting the fan and the league by getting every game on TV, on a nationally available broadcast or cable channel. And I don't know why they would fight that. I'm trying to find out. I'm talking to some people who would know. Why won't the NFL just do that? And why does the NFL think it won't make more money and have even bigger ratings if it would just embrace? And they consider this. They called it the New Frontier study. It came out in the Sunday Ticket trial. They considered it and decided not to do it. Why not do it? Why not make all those games available? Why make it scarce and then require your most ardent fans to overpay, and then you have these millions of people who are just stuck with, I'd like to watch the Saints game, but maybe I'll have highlights of it during the Steelers game. I'll just watch that game instead. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.